Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the absolute financial engine behind every major corporate decision, the cost of capital. If you've ever found yourself wondering why on earth a company greenlights a super risky new product line, but then turns around and scraps a perfectly safe real estate expansion, well, it all comes down to the mechanics we're about to unpack right now.
So, what does money actually cost a business? I know, it sounds like a trick question, right? But presenting this seemingly simple concept as a tangible, real-world business problem is absolutely crucial to unlocking corporate finance. Because the harsh reality is, capital is literally never free. Every single dollar, or euro, or rupee a business raises carries a hidden price tag, a very real expectation from the people who handed that money over in the first place.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, defining cost of capital. Second, the core capital components. Third, the weighted average cost. Fourth, understanding opportunity cost. And finally, number 5, real-world business uses.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Defining Cost of Capital. So by definition, the cost of capital is the least rate of return a firm must earn on its investments just to satisfy its investors. I like to think of it as a mandatory hurdle. Like we said, capital isn't free. This percentage right here is the absolute baseline that any internal project has to clear just to keep the lights on and keep the investors from walking away.
When we're measuring these financial sacrifices, we're really looking at two dueling concepts. On one hand, we have implicit cost, which is essentially the opportunity cost you didn't earn. It's the phantom cost of that alternative option you passed up. Then, on the other hand, we have explicit cost. This is the tangible cash a firm actually invests and then physically pays back to its shareholders as stock appreciation or dividends.
Economist Milton H. Spencer hit the nail on the head when he called it the minimum required rate of return which a firm requires as a condition for undertaking an investment. You know, it's a strict cutoff rate. If a project can't meet this one condition, the business simply shouldn't touch it. It's the ultimate go or no-go gauge for any management team.
Moving right along to Section 2, the core capital components.
You see, a business doesn't just pull cash from one giant generic piggy bank. Its capital structure is actually made up of very distinct vehicles. You've got debt, like debentures and term loans. You've got equity, like preference and equity capital. And then you have retained earnings, which are basically the company's own savings. Crucially, each and every one of these vehicles carries its own specific implied cost and a totally distinct investor expectation. And this is exactly why financial management is a constant, everyday balancing act. Getting that proportionate distribution of debt versus equity right is vital. For instance, a structure with high equity and low debt might seem super safe, giving you room to borrow later. But here's the catch. Debt can sometimes be way cheaper than equity, even though it carries a higher risk. The whole game is finding that perfect mix that minimizes the overall cost of capital so you can protect and actually maximize shareholder wealth. Which naturally brings us to Section 3. The weighted average cost.
Okay, since a company uses all those different sources of finance we just talked about, we need to boil it down to a single blended metric. Here is the procedural math to get that overall cost, and it's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, identify the implied cost of your various sources of finance. Step 2, evaluate their corresponding weights in your total pool of money. Step 3, multiply those costs by their weights and add them all together. It's really just a weighted arithmetic average.
Let's ground this in some real numbers. Take a look at Perfect Ltd. Notice how they have 20 locks in equity costing them 11%, but then they have another 20 locks in debentures costing only 7%. By weighting these specific amounts against their specific costs, management calculates a blended average. The cheaper debt actually pulls down the more expensive equity, creating one unified target rate for the entire company to aim for.
All right, Section 4, Understanding Opportunity Cost.
Whenever a company makes a massive corporate investment, let's say building a brand new manufacturing plant, they are making a definitive choice. The opportunity cost of capital is defined as the incremental return a business forgoes when it elects to use funds for that internal project rather than investing it somewhere else, like a safe marketable security. Basically, by choosing to fund one project, you are inherently sacrificing the potential returns of another option out there with a similar risk profile.
Academic L.J. Gitman spells out exactly how high the stakes really are here. He says, the cost of capital is the rate of return a firm must earn on its investment so the market value of the firm remains unchanged. Think about that. If you ignore your opportunity costs and just blindly invest in a subpar internal project, the overall market value of your entire business will actually drop. Investors will see you aren't deploying their capital efficiently, and for a corporate leadership team, that is a massive, massive threat.
Finally, let's hit Section 5, Real-World Business Uses.
So where does the rubber actually meet the road? Well, these aggregated metrics are the absolute lifeblood of financial management, driving three main things. First, investment evaluation, acting as that ultimate cutoff rate to judge if a project is even worth looking at. Second, designing debt policy, allowing firms to mathematically optimize their ratio of debt to equity. And third, project appraisal, meaning when you're comparing two competing projects, managers are seeking the one where the internal rate of return comfortably beats this specific cost of capital.
At the end of the day, the cost of capital is a ruthless filter. Any internal investment absolutely must clear this benchmark. If it doesn't, well, your investors will simply pull their funding and take it straight to a competitor who can deliver the returns they demand. It's designed to weed out bad ideas before they ever get off the ground. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to really chew on. Given that this one single percentage acts as the ultimate filter for every major corporate decision, how would a slight shift, say just a 1 or 2% increase in a company's cost of capital because of a changing economy, completely rewrite its strategic direction, its ability to innovate, and ultimately its future survival? When you start looking at the business world through this specific financial lens, I promise you, everything changes. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.